While Brazil lost over 5 million hectares of forest in just 4 years, this forest survived. The reason why has nothing to do with technology, government programs, or international funding. Between 2018 and 2022, Brazil's Amazon lost more than 5 million hectares of forest. That's an area larger than Costa Rica, gone in just 5 years. The official PRODES satellite program, run by Brazil's National Institute for Space Research, tracked this loss year by year, 1 million hectares in 2018, climbing steadily to a record 1.5 million in 2022. Each number on the chart represents thousands of square kilometers of ancient canopy erased, habitat stripped, and carbon released. 3 independent monitoring systems, PRODES, DETER, and Map Biomass, converge on the same total, over 5 million hectares of primary forest cleared in this short window. The scale is hard to grasp. Imagine a scar stretching across the heart of the Amazon, visible from space, expanding with every illegal fire and every patch of cleared land. These are not just numbers, they are rivers clouded with ash, silent treefall, and the vanishing of worlds that took millennia to form. This is the measurable reality of deforestation in Brazil's Amazon, captured in hard data, and it sets the stage for everything that follows. Illegal loggers, miners, and ranchers moved quickly to fill the vacuum left by weakened enforcement. Chainsaws cut through the night, carving new roads deep into the forest. Gold dredges churned riverbanks, releasing mercury into the water. Fires set for cattle pastures sent smoke drifting for miles, each blaze erasing centuries of life in a single afternoon. These actors, often backed by organized crime, operated with near impunity as environmental agencies lost both funding and authority. In the Yanomami territory of Roraima, the human cost became impossible to ignore. By 2021, acute malnutrition among Yanomami children under 5 had more than doubled. Malaria cases soared, and mercury from illegal gold mining seeped into fish and drinking water. Blood tests found mercury levels in adults at 6 times the safe limit. Under 5 mortality, already high, climbed to 78 deaths per 1,000 live births at the peak of the crisis. Government responses arrived late or not at all. Emergency decrees promised action, but illegal mining and disease continued to spread. For the Yanomami, survival meant relying on mobile clinics and outside aid, while the forest around them disappeared. These are not isolated statistics, they are the daily reality for communities caught between extraction and neglect. The question now is, why some territories resisted this fate when so much of the Amazon did not? Satellite overlays reveal the Amazon's deforestation is not spread evenly. When researchers mapped 5 years of forest loss across the basin, a single number stood out. 90% of all cleared land lay outside the boundaries of indigenous territories. That is not a rounding error, it is a gulf. The same satellite images, pixel by pixel, show a different world inside recognized indigenous lands. Here, the loss amounts to just 1.2% of total forest area, compared to the sweeping devastation beyond their borders. This is not a snapshot from a single year. It is the result of long-term satellite tracking, PRODES, DETER, Map Biomass, all converging on the same pattern. The contrast is so stark that, when visualized, the legal indigenous territories appear as deep green islands surrounded by a sea of deforested brown and gray. Every hectare spared inside these boundaries means thousands of tons of carbon kept out of the atmosphere, and habitats left intact for species found nowhere else on Earth. The numbers draw a clear line. 90% of the destruction happens outside, while only a fraction, 1.2%, occurs within. This is the measurable difference between land left vulnerable and land defended by its original stewards. Protecting indigenous territories in the Amazon is not just an act of justice, it is the most cost-effective climate investment known today. Researchers compared the price of keeping carbon locked in the forest with the latest engineered solutions. The numbers do not lie. Supporting indigenous land protection costs as little as $30 per ton of carbon dioxide kept out of the atmosphere. Direct air capture machines, hailed as the future of carbon removal, run at $900 to $1,200 per ton. That is up to 29 times more expensive than simply keeping the forest standing. Every hectare held by indigenous communities delivers climate impact at a fraction of the price of industrial fixes. The economics are so clear that a single land deed can do more for the climate than millions spent on technology. The most cost-effective climate solution on Earth is not a technology, it is a land deed. The Puyanawa story begins with loss, but it does not end there. After decades of displacement and ecological ruin, the official demarcation of their territory in 1984 became the turning point. With land rights secured, the community set out to heal what had been stripped away. Over the past 5 years, they planted more than 2.1 million saplings across their ancestral lands, each tree a living act of restoration. Satellite data tells the rest. The normalized difference, vegetation index, which measures forest health, climbed from 0.31 to 0.44 since 2019. Illegal clear-cutting inside Puyanawa territory fell by 87% compared to the surrounding region. Chief Joel Puyanawa's words now greet every visitor. If we cut down a forest, it will never recover. The numbers and the living forest both bear him out. Across the Xingu Basin, indigenous women have built a living network that reaches far beyond a single territory. The Rede Sementes do Xingu has planted 25 million trees, restoring 7,000 hectares of forest. Their work has generated $7 million in community income without relying on government support. This is restoration at scale, led from the ground up, and proof that indigenous stewardship can transform entire regions. The Amazon is not being saved by governments. It is not being saved by corporations. It is being saved by the people who never stopped calling it home. What do you think? Should indigenous land rights be recognized globally as a climate solution? Tell us in the comments.